My colleagues are ready?
Yes.
We can give the floor to Arianna for the first speech of the conversation. Arianna, you may have the floor.
So my speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mariana, the first speaker of the proposition team, and today we're here to discuss the motion that says that the feminist movement should support organizations that explicitly exclude men, IISS, sororities, all female startups, female-only networking groups, etc. So I would like to start by defining what these terms mean so that we can all agree on that. And we define the feminist movement as the movement that believes and aims that women should have the same opportunities as men. For support, we mean encourage, help, and agree with them. With sorority, we mean a club of women students at colleges. With startups, we mean companies that just began to operate. And for networking groups, we mean social environments. So, we need to ask ourselves, why do we discuss about it in the first place? Let's take a look at today's world. Companies and the working field are entirely governed by the patriarchy. In fact, the employment rate of women is drastically lower than men. In 2020, on 23 million employed people in Italy, only 9 million of them were women. It is well known and undeniable that the retribution gap between women and men is huge and it is increasing. For $1 gained by a man, only 0.63 cents are gained by women. And so it's the 40% less than men. It is well known also that women also have startups that are less than men. So in the working field, women have positions that are very much lower than the men's one. But this is an undeniable contradiction because data show, as my first argument will say, that women are more educated than men. And these are data that exist and are taken from the Book of Facts. This working situation simply does not make sense, and the explanation lies in the current male-centered system. This issue is taken from our team by the feminist point of view, which is the one that aims to equality, to fairness in the working field and in the world between women and men in general. So it only makes sense to support this kind of support, because it will only lead to more equality, more fairness between the two parts, which is something that we struggle a lot and we have been struggling with all during the decades. And we want to underline that supporting this kind of organizations is not the only, but one of the many things that the feminist movement should do to improve the current situation. There are 3 arguments in our team line. The first one, that the feminist movement should support female-only organizations to fight inequalities in working spaces. That will be explained by me. Second, because these workspaces should be supported because they make women feel safe, so they create safe spaces which are proven to be needed in our current world. And third, to promote sisterhood and stop the toxic trend of women rivalry. So I would like to start my first argument, which is that this support to this organization is due to the inequalities in the workspace, to lower them and to finally take a stop to them. So, first of all, as I said, we have contextualized nowadays working spaces, and we see how unjustified is this gap, how unjustified is that women do not have the same opportunities as men. Also because, as the Book of Facts explains, in 2022, but this has been going on for 20 years now, 40,000 more women are graduated confronted to men, and this is a big date. So if women do not have enough space to interact, because of the presence of men, they will never have the possibility to be treated equally. So if a woman in the workspace has to constantly be facing discrimination and this kind of assumption that women are less valuable than men or should work more to have the same position, they will never shine, and they will ultimately increase only the patriarchy that is already going on. As the third speaker will bring the example, the same Elisabetta Franchi, who have gone through this patriarchy, is now contributing to it. And this is an effect of the going on situation of the patriarchy that is only exposing women to the higher risk. It means that the gap between as I said, this is a paradox, and this is underlined also by how many startups are there by women contraposed to by men. And 25% of companies are women startups, and all the rest are created by men. This inequality has to stop, and we strongly believe that the feminist movement has to support this kind of...
PI?
Yes, I accept.
So your team believes that in order for women to succeed, the feminist movement has to exclude men from women's business?
Yes. As I said, only female businesses have to exist. But as I explained in my team line, they are not the only kind of workspace that can exist, but they should exist, and they should be supported. So, to conclude, one of the many things that should be done to take a stop to this current patriarchal situation is to support these kind of organizations that exclude men, not in order to create an imbalance, but to create fairness. The feminist movement, as a movement, wants to not create an equal system, but to create an equal system has to first create a fair system. So if there is only a women workspace that's only fair because there are many other systems that are completely controlled by men. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. A few seconds for us, please. Okay, by the way, Ariana, your time was 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay, if both my colleagues are ready, we can move on to the first speech of the opposition. Rita, you may have the floor.
So my time will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning everyone, I'm Rita Giobbi and I'm the first speaker of the opposition team. As the opposition team, we advocate against the following motion, which states the feminist movement should support organizations that explicitly exclude all men, for example sororities, female startups. Our team line is that supporting organizations that explicitly exclude all men would mean indirectly excluding men from feminism itself, thus leading to the movement's downfall. So before going on with our definitions that we decided to give, I will start by refuting some of the arguments proposed by the previous team. So they said that the reason why that there aren't enough women in the work experience, there are many women that are working in Italy, and they gave some data for that. But I would like to stress the fact that the reason why women do not work is not because there are too many men in the work experience in the work world. It is because there is a social expectation for women to be different than men, to be separated from them, to just stay at home, for example, with the kids, and to do those kind of things. So it would be wrong to say that there are too many men and not enough positions for women. There are. It's just that there is a societal expectation for women to be different, and we are against that.
Don't you believe that another factor that contributes to women not working as much is them being discouraged by male-dominant environments?
Yes, and that is what my teammate will talk about later, is that having a male-dominant work environment is something that must be fought, not escaped from. So if we create just female environments, we are basically dissociating women from men, and that will just lead to more differences that we do not want to encourage. So going on, they also said that fairness in work field, I would like to say that fairness in work field can be achieved between the two parts only if they are in the same work environment. If we divide them, we are never going to have a fairness between the two, because they will not be in contact with each other. So the first speaker also said that, we said that you must face this discrimination and fought against them and not run from them. And we feel that providing these work environments is something that we do not advocate against. They can exist, but they should not be supported by the feminist movement, because it's not something that follows the movement ideals. So at some point you said that women can't make it on their own in a work environment that is dominated by men, and that would basically be saying that women are less than men because they cannot face the competition, and that is wrong. My teammate will give many examples of women that have made it in this kind of work environment. So that being said, I would like to continue with two more definitions that we'd like to add to the ones that you said that we agree with. So the first is movement. So a movement is a group of people that share the same aim, and a movement needs free association. So you cannot exclude someone from a movement. In fact, the feminist movement is not completely made up by women. There are also many men, and that is something I will talk about later. I would also like to add something to the context that you depicted. So we know that we live in a patriarchal world, and that is why we need to include men in the feminist education. And by supporting this kind of organization, we are excluding men from these feminist ideas. They will feel rejected, and that is not something that will go for women. That is something that my teammates will say later, and so now I will go on by talking about our arguments. So the first argument is that this specific motion, is against the main principle of feminism, and that is something that I will talk about later. Then my teammate Maria Joanna will talk about how this motion means that excluding men would be ineffective and harmful both to the women in the movement and to society as a whole. And our third argument is that in order for women and the feminist movement to succeed, it needs men's support, and by excluding them we cannot achieve this. So now I'll further explain our first point, which is the motion is against the main principle of feminism. So we must remember that feminist movement is not made by all women. There are many, many men that actually work for the same aim. In fact, as I said before, a movement is an association of people that work towards the same aim. So by excluding men, we would be basically damaging the movement itself. And that it goes against its own principle, because the principle of the feminist movement is that women are equal to men. Equal means that they can do exactly the same things that men do, where men can do those things, and that women are not a different part of society as they were expected to be in the past. So, as I was saying, without the inclusion of men, we are just isolating women in their accommodation, so sororities, and activities, especially jobs, so all-female startups. and I would like to stress on that, we do not want to eliminate those kind of commodities, those kinds of associations, but we do not believe that those should be seen as a feminist movement, because they are not. They are a preference. Women can do those things if they feel like it, but it should not pass as a feminist idea. So, so we would just be isolating them. This will not mean, this is not what this movement is about. It is not about creating specific places for just women. It's about creating a community where women and men can be in the same place, do the same things. I would also like to reiterate that women, as the feminist movement says, are equal to men in the sense that they can work just as well. So saying, creating those spaces and telling women that they should prefer those as support means would mean just dividing them from the rest of the society, and that is not what we want. So to conclude and to sum up, we believe that supporting those kind of organizations wouldn't benefit the feminist movement or women at all, and that it's why we should remain indifferent to those kind of activities. Thank you for your time. This is the end of my speech. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rita. A few seconds for us. Your time was 7 minutes, 50 seconds. If my colleagues are ready. Yeah. Elisabetta, 5 minutes.
Speech will start in 3, 2, 1, now. I would like to re-highlight what the real purpose of feminism is. Feminism is the belief and aim that women and men should have equal rights and opportunities. But does that happen right now at the moment? No. Unfortunately, no. Right now in our world, women don't have the same rights and the same opportunities as men. And we should recognize that. The opposition team is completely not acknowledging the fact that these inequalities exist, and throwing women in male-dominated spaces and just telling them to fight and to just work in these environments without recognizing the all the disadvantages that come with that is not supporting women. Instead, what we push for is actually supporting women and is within the purpose of feminism, which is, again, the belief that women and men should have the same rights and opportunities. So it was said by the opposition team that the feminist movement supporting these groups would be excluding men from the feminist movement, but that is not it. That is not true, because feminist men know and are aware of the fact that women do need these spaces right now at the moment to feel safe, to work better, and as we have explained and as we will explain further on, they are conscious of this, and therefore they would not feel excluded. They would not feel like the feminist movement is only about women and is projecting men to be the monsters of the situation. And it's the feminist movement supporting these organizations, these all-females organizations, would also not exclude men from being educated on feminism, like you guys said, but it's not the focus.
So they wouldn't exclude men from education, but they would exclude men from work, job place, from job opportunities.
It would not be an exclusion of men from job opportunities, because men already have those opportunities. It is women that do not have the same opportunities as men right now, because, for example, we will talk also later on the STEM industry. is extremely male-dominated, and there are infinities of jobs directed towards men in the STEM industry. And women have difficulties entering this world because of the stereotypes that surround women in the workspaces that are male-dominated. And we will also talk about that later on. Yes, so it was said by the opposition team that women and men are equal. Yes, women and men are equal, they have the same potential, but right now they are not in the same position. And we should not acknowledge that. In order for women to have the same opportunities and the same rights, so to follow the purpose of the feminist movement, we should acknowledge the difficulties that women encounter these days in our world. So right now I will pass on to explain our two next arguments. Our second argument is that the feminist movement should support these all-females organizations because they are a safe space for women. So oftentimes women are met with many difficulties when encountering social environments. Let's just think about nightlife. Clubs and dancing is a very fun activity to do. For men, it is very fun, and for women as well, except for the fact that spiking is a practice that has been more and more alarming in the past years. Spiking is a practice of secretly introducing drugs in women's drinks to later on get something from women that are then intoxicated without their will. And this is very dangerous for women. And women have to be constantly on the watch for these kind of issues, these kind of risks that they take whenever they go out at night. And this is not a risk that men have to worry about. So there is an inequality. And for example, all female clubs would allow women to feel safe and to not worry about certain issues like this. For example, even gyms can be considered vulnerable environments because women, when doing some sports, obviously women are kind of showing their bodies, which this fact alone can make them feel uncomfortable to have to be dressed in a certain way in front of a lot of men. But then also some behaviors that are put in place by men, such as staring in the gym, can be very uncomfortable for women. So all female gyms eliminate all of those issues for women, and also they would benefit, for example, Muslim women, because they wouldn't have to wear their hijab in an all-female gym. But also, as I previously stated, sororities, for example, they would encourage women to enter spaces, for example, university spaces, for example, in the STEM industry, as in fact, only 29.5% of women are in the STEM industry. So sororities would encourage women to enter these spaces or even to stay in these spaces because, again, when entering male-dominated industries such as this, women are encountering many stereotypes. They are being underestimated. They are also facing maybe a lot of jokes, and it can be very uncomfortable and sororities, so these all-female environments can encourage women to stay in these industries and make them feel safer. Our third and last argument is the fact that the feminist movement should support all women organizations because they promote sisterhood. So all the previously cited stereotypes that women are subject to are oftentimes being perpetuated by women as well, by women themselves. We have a lot of women discriminating other women. A very striking example of this is Elisabetta Franchi, which is a fashion designer, claiming that she does not hire women that are younger than 40 years old or women that are willing to get married or have children in the future. This creates a situation of inequality between men and women because men do not face this kind of discrimination also between themselves. Men have not been taught for thousands of years to be constantly in competition with each other. And what all female spaces would do is promote sisterhood between women and fill the gap, fill this inequality of men not having to compete with one another and women having to compete with one another. With this, I would like to end my speech saying that the purpose of the feminist movement is the one to make women have the same rights and opportunities as men, and supporting all female groups is completely in line with this purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisabetta. Your time was 8 minutes, 30 seconds. A few seconds for us now, please. Okay. Maria Giovanna.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone. I'm Maria Giovanna Duranti, and today I'll be the second speaker of the opposition team. We advocate against the following motion. This House believes that the feminist movement should support organizations that explicitly exclude all men. It has sororities, all female startups, female women networking groups. Well, first of all, I would like to refute some of the arguments proposed by the second speaker of the proposition team. You said that women would feel safer in, for example, all-female startup or in an all-female work environment. They would feel safer, and because they're not facing men. So this is exactly the point. Like the real work is made of men and women. So at some point, they will have to face men. We are running from the problem here. Also, is it more inspiring women make it in the real world, or like in the ideal world where there are older women? Like, how should this be more encouraging to women in order to pursue their careers? The main problem is. Yes.
Are you romanticizing going through struggles to get to the point where men don't?
No, I'm not saying this. Thank you for your question. It's a good question, but I'm not saying this. I'm saying that women.
Okay, I think we are ready for the third speech of the proposition. Miriana, you may have the floor.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1, now. Good morning, everyone. I'm Miriana Calabrese, the third speaker of the proposition team, and I would like to start my speech by putting a spotlight onto the real goal of feminism. As has been stated before, feminism movement is the belief and aim that women should have the same opportunity as men. And the opposition team has said that this means equality. Not this means having a fair system. The difference between equality and fairness is that equality means treating all the people the same way. Fairness means treating people the way they need to be treated to have the same start. For example, as in this case, why should women be treated the same way as men if for the whole history they've been treated less than men? Now they need an incentive to become equal to men, therefore we need a fair system. So the feminist movement, for this reason and for other reasons that previously my other teammates have stated, the feminist movement should support this organization, because by having an organization that are all female, are composed by all female, we have a fair system and not an equal system, and this is what women need to become equal as men. And also I would like to continue by going to refuting what the opposition team stated in their arguments. The first speaker said that if feminist movement support this idea and this type of organization, there will be an exclusion of men from feminism. If feminist men exist, why would they be against the presence of safe places? If these men are real feminists, they, in some kind of way, understand what are the problems and the struggles that women face in everyday life. Therefore, why would they be against a safe space for women? For example, why would feminist men be against the presence of an all-woman club for dancing? In this case, women can dance happily without the risk of being spiked and then raped. Therefore, why should feminist men be against a club that secure the security of women? This does not stand. And they also said that in this way, men can feel rejected. First of all, we are not saying that all organizations should be only ruled by female. We are saying the motion says that the goal of the feminist movement is on the same line of what is the goal of having organizations that are all female. Therefore, we are saying that this organization can exist and they are on the same page of what is the goal of the feminist movement. And also, as stated before, women have been rejected for the entirety of history. And by giving a fair system to them, we're not discriminating men, but we are just assuring the existence of safe places for women so that they can reach the same level in workspaces, in network places as men. And they also said that men and women are equal. Yes, they are equal, but not in the eyes of the society, because of the patriarchy that is rooted in our society. For example, as the data that we have brought to you, even though in Italy the majority women have a lot more degrees than men, the majority of employed are still men. Therefore, even though men and women are equally capable, they are not treated equally. Therefore, again, we need a fair system. Yes.
Do you have any evidence of this difference of degrees?
Yes, for the last 20 years, women had the number of women that have a degree that here are 40% major than the one of the men. But is the contrary for what regards the employed. Men are more employed and are more in position of importance within a workplace in contrast with what women have. And then they also said that this organization can exist, and they just stated what our motion is, because they did not understand what we are talking about. For example, they said that men should be educated. Of course men should be educated. Why would men not be educated on the feminist movement and what is the history of women and why they should be equal as men? These are not what we are talking about. We are talking about safe spaces for women, not the education of men. Therefore, this is not what the motion has brought to us. And they also said that the real world is composed by women and men. Therefore, at some point, they will face each other. Yes, it's true, obviously, obviously the world is composed both by men and women, and they will face each other at some point. But why a woman that has had some trauma in past workplace should be obligated to work in an industry, in a firm, in a company that has a dominance of male employees? This could trigger her trauma, therefore it would be more safe and would be more good for her security and her own mental health to work in a place that's composed by all women. And therefore we are saying that having this type of organization that are supported by the feminist movement, it's not taking away opportunities from men. We are talking about giving these opportunities to women so they can reach the same level of employment, of the life as men. And also they said that this system is ineffective and harmful, but they did not give us some example of why this type of organization can be ineffective and harmful. And they also said that by the presence of these organizations, feminists can be misguided as misandry, and of course that is not true, because misogyny is a problem that it's rooted in the society for millennials from where the world started. Therefore, by having some organization, we cannot have the same type of misandry that we have as misogyny. Misogyny is a more rooted problem, of course, than misandry, because it's rooted in society, in workplace, and in every place that a woman steps in. Therefore, we are saying that the feminist movements should support these organizations. First of all, because they are a fair system for women, and only by having a fair system we can give the same opportunities to women. And we are also saying that these organizations are not the only organization that should exist. We are just saying that this type of organization should be supported by the feminist movement because they are on the same page. They follow the same goal and have the same aim. Therefore, this is why the feminist movement should support this type of organization. First of all, because it would give safe spaces for women, because it would fight the inequalities in working spaces, and because it would promote sisterhood between women. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Miriam. The time was 8 minutes, 5 seconds. Okay. Anna Luz may have the floor for 8 minutes.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone. I'm Anna Luz. I'm the first speaker of the opposition team. Today we're debating against the motion that the feminist movements should support organizations that explicitly excludes all men. So it has sororities, all female startups, female-only networking groups. Before starting with exposing my arguments, I would like to rebut some of the allegations made by the previous speaker. First of all, it's been talked about the real goal of feminism, which is not, as she said, treating everyone with equality, but by introducing a fair system. So treating everyone with fairness. As my teammates already said, this fair system that they're talking about is not as being explicitly set. So if it is about excluding men from organizations, we believe that that is not something that women can count on with living a life fair towards the men, because facing reality, women are not going to stop seeing men. Even if you create safe places or working places, they're still going to be facing men. So as our first speaker, Rita, said in her speech, it is running away from the problem. And this is not what feminism stands for. Feminism has an history, and it stands for the fight, for fighting for equal rights and equal opportunities. What we want to make clear, since we already said it, but we believe it's not clear yet, is that having safe places, organizations, all made up from just women, it's not against feminism. What we're saying is that these organizations can exist, but they are indifferent to what feminism stands for. They have nothing to do with feminism. Women can obviously have traumas, so obviously we're not romanticizing traumas or past experience. We're just saying that only having to rely on organizations that exclude men will not solve the issues related to the society, which we have defined as a patriarchal one. As a point of fact, since in this society women are not equal to men, what we need to do is educate men, educate society, excluding them from organizations, which by our team line means indirectly excluding men from the movement itself, will not help women and feminism in general to stand their ground. Yes, sorry. Yes.
How would educate men be against this type of organization? What is the connection between the two? Because the education of men is not included in the motion, and it's not what we're talking about.
Education is inclusivity. We stand by that. Excluding men from organizations and from the movement itself will not end up in education for men. Even worse, as we said in our third point, excluding men will not gain women or feminism the support by men. Because yes, there are feminist men, but we can all agree, because it's common knowledge, that women that support the feminist movement have a way higher number. So it would bring even worse consequences to the feminist movement. It would lead to this downfall. Not having the support of men, especially because we live in a patriarchal society. So yeah, as to conclude my answer to your point of information, we stand that by the fact that education is fundamental, and excluding men from places where they can be educated, so it can be your workplace, it can be. We're not talking about sororities, because sororities are commonly accommodation from US university students. So it obviously, they are all female, so it obviously can't include men by definition. But this will not be equal to an education for men. To sum up what my teammates and I debated for in the course of this discussion, as said, feminism, I think we have repeated it quite a big amount of the time. Feminism stands for equal rights and equal opportunities, and we have differentiated misandry, where we can define as kind of an hatred for men, for male individuals, and power up for women. As said by my teammate Maria Giovanna, women are able to succeed even with men in the same workplace as theirs. And we have quite an amount of evidence. We have lots of women who have made it and gained a successful career. We can, for example, quote Jeanette Rankin, in 2016, first congresswoman. Frances Perkins, first woman in the United States cabinet. Madeleine Albright, 1997, Secretary of State. Sandra Day O'Connor, 1981, Judge of Supreme Court, and many more. We've seen that women do not need to exclude men to succeed in workplace. So they have the same equal chances to succeed, and they have to fight for these opportunities. They don't have to run away from them by creating workplace and startups or networking groups that exclude men to succeed. Because that is never going to happen in society. It will never happen that there will be startups, networking groups where men will be excluded and only women will have a chance to shine. Yes.
So just to make sure, your team is not for an urgent solution to the agreeable problems of little places for women to work and unsafe spaces. You think it's enough?
Can you repeat this?
So your team is not for the urgency of taking action about this, because as you stated, educating men is not something that we can do instantly. It's not something that will have an effect instantly.
I didn't state that. I didn't say that you can't instantly educate men. I said that you can't instantly. I didn't say that. You have to start educating men. They have already started. Feminism is already trying to include men in their movements. They have already created many things to also battle for men's rights. So you have to start educating men instantly, but you don't start educating men by excluding them. That's what my team stands for. And if you want to change the eyes of society, if you want to say change the stereotypes that we've talked about in this debate, you have to educate, you don't have to exclude, because excluding someone, getting them away from workplaces, it's first of all something that is never going to happen, and second of all ineffective and harmful toward the movement itself, toward the women, and toward society. That's what my team stands for. I said in the team line. Also, and that was the end of the speech. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Arnaud. Your time is 8 minutes sharp. Just a few seconds for us. Okay. If my colleagues are ready, I think we can proceed to the reply speeches, starting from the opposition house number 1.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning everyone again, I'm Benedetto, and today I'll be doing the reply speech for the opposition side. Today here we were discussing about the demonstration. This house believes that the feminist movements should support organizations that explicitly exclude all men. And our side believes that supporting organizations that explicitly exclude all men would mean indirectly excluding men from feminism itself, thus leading to the movement's downfall. So, I believe that this was a great discussion, but there are some points that give the win to side opposition. And so I'm going to explain why we believe that by analyzing the main points of clash of this debate. The first point of clash that we had in the first speeches is the contraposition in how we intend employment and working spaces, because we state that women, we don't like to encourage differences. And women, yes, we have social expectations for women, we have stereotypes, but we should fight against creating differences, while the proposition team thinks that it would be the goals of the feminist movement to create safe working spaces for women, and that, that there is a problem for women in employment, and in order to, they're not capable of having a career in a man's work, like it's difficult for them, they struggle. And while we think that, yes, it's true that they struggle, but they still are capable of having success and having successful careers. Another point of view is another point of clash is how we define feminism, because we define it as having equal rights and equal opportunities, and while the proposition team talks about fairness and how this applies to the motion, because a safe space, a safe work environment for women would create fairness, while we believe that there still wouldn't be fairness in the real world, even with these work environments. That's why feminist movements should remain indifferent. Another point of clash that I would like to talk about is that it would constitute, so that this would women, that the goals of this feminist movement is on the same line as this organization that excludes men, but we don't think so because we think that feminists should focus on educating men and facing the problem. So this was another point of clash. So what is the conclusion of this debate? In our world, we have feminist movements that support educating men and actually facing the problem in this reality. And so feminist movements remain indifferent to this kind of organization that would explicitly exclude all men. While in the word proposed by the proposition team, we have feminist movements that support this female organization that exclude men, and this could also lead to losing their support. So we believe that you don't start educating men by excluding them, and as our team line states, supporting these organizations by feminist movements could lead to the downfall of the movement itself. So thank you, that was the end of my speech.
Okay, thank you, Maria Giovanna. Your time was 4 minutes 25. Okay, we are now ready for the last speech of the debate. Elisabetta, you have the floor.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1, now. Fairness against equality. This is the biggest point of clash that we have highlighted during this debate. We, as the proposition team, believe that fairness is not the same as equality because women have the same potential as men, but are not in the same position as men right now. And we have highlighted that and backed it up with many data during our speeches. So, what we should do to get women in the same position as men is to create and support incentives for women to fill in the gaps that the society has put in place for them. Instead, the opposition team believes that women should just be considered as equal to men in our current society and just work and live their life like they are not being discriminated heavily in our society, like they don't face incredible difficulties in everyday life, in workspaces and etc., and even others, such as we mentioned, clubs and gyms, for example. So the other big point of clash is whether these all female environments are feminist. The definition of feminism and if we consider these environments to kind of follow the definition of feminism. We say yes, because if the purpose of feminism is the one to bring women to be equal to men, they have to firstly recognize that right now women are not. They have to acknowledge the difficulties and the hardships and the challenges that women face in our current society. So, acknowledging these hardships, these difficulties, they provide incentives to eliminate and fill in the gaps that we have created during our history. Instead, the opposition teams believes that these all female environments are not feminist by definition because they encourage the social differences. But we don't believe that. We actually believe that there are social differences, and we cannot deny that. We have to be honest and frank with each other. There are social differences, and they need to be recognized in order to be tackled. If we just ignore the social differences that exist within our society, then the goal of the feminist movement would not be followed and would not be achieved, because there is no strategy to, there is no way or strategy again to tackle and to combat the inequalities that are present today. Just saying to women to face the issues is not enough to solve the issues that women face. So for all of these reasons, we strongly believe that the feminist movement should support the all-female organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time was 3 minutes 50. My heartfelt congratulations to both teams for completing this debate. Unfortunately, we are really in a hurry, so I would like to ask everyone to leave the room for a few seconds, a couple of minutes.